Welcome back to Inside the Data. This episode, we're featuring the most exciting league in the world, the Premier League. 380 matches, 9 months of continuous drama, 60,000 minutes, a data analyst's dream, because it can be stitched together in multiple different ways. This season we see 3 new clubs emerging from the Championship, with only Ipswich returning from their previous relegation. There are new clubs qualifying for Europe, and there's also a transfer window that's still open with clubs looking to do business. So let's dig into the data to really see what we should be looking out for this season. Okay, so lesson number 1. Arsenal. Can they break the pattern twice? Over the past 8 seasons, only 2 Premier League clubs have lifted the Premier League title until Arsenal broke it. Arsenal also reached the Champions League final, and although they didn't win it, that's an exceptional season. But I guess the key question is now, is what happens next? Well, back-to-back titles are very rare, with only 3 Premier League clubs ever doing it in Premier League history. This season is a difficult one to predict, because it's very hard to align the data. And that isn't because of Arsenal, but it's because of the significant changes at all of their rival clubs. The club that turned back-to-back titles into a habit, Manchester City, now have a new manager, as other rivals do, like Liverpool and Chelsea, with new voices, ideas, tactics, new players they want to sign. From a data perspective, it makes it genuinely an interesting nature of uncertainty. When you add in Aston Villa and Manchester United, who are building steadily and are growing every season, and even a surprise package coming through that we may not predict, this adds to the excitement. One thing is for sure, it'll be interesting to see things unfold and how the data unfolds and aligns. With the more stability, can Arsenal break the pattern twice and go back to back? Lesson number 2, European football and fixture congestion. More clubs than ever before from the Premier League have qualified for Europe. 5 teams have qualified for the Champions League. Bournemouth playing in Europe for the first time. Sunderland promoted the previous season, an extraordinary qualifying for Europe in their first season back. That is new territory for both clubs, and that doesn't even include the European Conference League. For all of the qualifying European clubs, the key risk is the February window. Why February? Because if clubs qualify, then that is when the knockout stages starts. The group stages at the start of the season are manageable because fixtures are spread, the squad has energy, and the novelty carries momentum. But when the last 16 hits, the midweek games stop being routine and become must-wins. So European travel, later nights, different services, different climates, different time zones, plus you're still playing in the Premier League, will hit at some point. Lesson number 3, the promoted clubs. Every season we see 3 clubs promoted from the Championship to the Premier League, and before ball's kicked they wrote off to go straight back down, and for good reason. The data shows that survival rate is brutal. In most recent seasons we're lucky to see 1 team survive, with last season being the exception. But not all promoted clubs arrive in the same way or in the same shape. Whether that's winning the league, whether that's finishing second, or whether that's coming through the playoffs. Championship winners and runners-up have a longer preparation window and a squad that's usually built to dominate, which they've done the previous season. But that squad and how it goes into the Premier League is very, very different. Playoff winners, however, have a shorter window due to them playing their Championship final in late May. Historically, playoff winners struggle early in the season and are at risk of the team finishing last in the Premier League. But the data shows that this typically shows up in October or November time with their performances. But here's the curveball. Last season, Sunderland arrived via the playoffs and finished 7th, qualifying for Europe, the most vulnerable team coming up through the Championship, but comfortably outperforming established Premier League clubs. Lesson number 4, VAR. 6 complete seasons with VAR, but what has it actually done? The popular narrative is that it frustrates fans, that it disrupts the game flow, and it's taking the enjoyment out of the game. But the data suggests something that's a lot more clearer. The accuracy of decisions has improved significantly since VAR has been introduced. Fewer wrong calls, fewer errors on the decisive moments. But one thing the data shows that is less obvious is that different clubs have very different records. And that isn't because VAR is biased, but it's because of tactical patterns. They create more borderline situations. Let's not deny that VAR will always be contentious because of the borderline decisions that it has to make. And that always will depend on whichever team you're supporting. But more possession, higher defensive lines, aggressive pressing, more physical aerial duels will create more VAR interventions. But the data is clear. When VAR has improved decision making in a game overall, and with newer rules being brought in, will the new rules address the fan experience argument? Lesson number 5, the transfer window. There's still a few weeks to go until the transfer window slams shut, and every fan is glued to the TV with the rumours what their club's business could be. Is this a signing that helps them survive, that pushes them into the European spots, or ultimately wins them silverware? The transfer window is always fascinating. Money doesn't always buy you success, but what does the data say about transfers? The clubs that typically do their business early in the transfer window perform better than those scrambling on transfer deadline day. Why? Simply because they give their players the preparation time they need to embed into a new club, not just days before. Adapting to a new team, tactics, system, manager, squad are all what fans see, but it goes deeper than football because players have to embed into a new city, a new country, a new culture, a new language. It's all these things that have to be taken into account, which fans don't see, and data is very hard to follow. However, the transfer window activity typically shows up in around the October-November time, when expected dealings and performances come into question. Add in that this season, the new spending cost rules come into force, which is reshaping the transfer window. Clubs now can spread costs differently, which has changed who can do business and when. So what do we look out for this season? This is a unique season with clubs that have dominated over recent years. Man City, Liverpool, Chelsea, all navigating a level of change that is almost unprecedented. Tottenham have been the most active in the transfer window, signalling their intent that previous seasons just haven't been good enough, and they aim to challenge this year. And then there are stories that fascinate. Bournemouth and Sunderland, 2 clubs competing not just in the Premier League, but also in European campaigns for the first time. Different journeys, same challenge, but can they sustain both? Whatever happens over the next 9 months, this Premier League season is going to be a fascinating one.